Everything plays nicely together. Okay, now we are absolutely back on track now.
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, so here's what it is. I mean, number one, you can look at the door and you can see this is what's called a tin-clad door. And what it is, if you take, those are just thin pieces of sheet metal. And underneath it, you have a core that is solid lumber. So think like a 1x6. It might not be pine, but it might be a fir or some other type of material. Usually it's a softwood, not a hardwood. And you have one layer running the full height of it. So you'll have 6 or 7 6-inch wide boards running the full height. And then you'll have another layer running horizontal. And then they're nailed, they are through nailed together. Have you ever heard the old saying, dead as a doornail? Okay, so what it really comes from the old handmade doors. So they take a cut nail, traditional cut nail that you might use in masonry. It's pounded through both layers so that it extends about 1 inch all the way through. And then the part that's extended over gets bent over, dead as a doornail. So it can't pull apart. And then the whole thing is covered with these tiles. And there's a certain way that all the seams are formed and they're interlocked and how they're nailed to the door. But basically, the picture on the left really gives us a good idea. We have a strap hinge. So yes, it's a hinge, but it's a much different hinge. This door can be 6 feet wide and 12 feet tall. So that's a very large door. And it's got a latching mechanism, but it's more like a gate latch. And then you have, this is the closing mechanism here. It's a counterweight system, chains and pulleys, cables, ropes, whatever they decide to use. But that is a Chapter 7 type door. And that's why, and the other thing about a Chapter 7 type door, this particular one has a frame. See that you can see the frame around it. But some don't have a frame. They actually, there's a large, they call it a crush plate, that allows the hinge to mount directly to the masonry wall, and it's through bolted to the wall. But then the door panel is so large that, let's say for the sake of discussion, this door is 6 feet wide and 12 feet tall. Then the opening would be 4 inches smaller on all sides in the wall, so that the door leaf overlaps it. Okay. So that's it. I mean, that's really it. When a Chapter 6 door looks pretty much like the door on the right, that's the kind of material we're familiar with. Chapter 7 is much more industrial. Today, I could only find 2 manufacturers, and they're both in New York City. And these are handmade doors. You have to look very hard. But right there, where I just circled, that's the label on it. I think I have a close-up of that label in this presentation. Yeah. This is the label that's on that door. Underwriter's Laboratory, 3 hour. So this one's a 3 hour A label. So I told you it had 2 layers of lumber. For the 3 hour, it has 3 layers. So 2 running vertical with the horizontal sandwiched in between the vertical, and then the tile applied to it. But that's really what it is. And there's no way of gauging. Maybe using this label, this style of label, because the other thing that you'll see when you look at these really old fire door labels, right here, Underwriters is using the word inspected, and it's a completely different context than what we're talking about. Back in the 30s, 40s, and maybe into the 50s, they use the term inspected to mean classified or listed, like we'll see on modern labels. So, good question. But that's what that little guy is.